You know, it's amazing when you think about all the discoveries that shape our world.
It really is. From food science to, well, the phones in our pocket.
Exactly. And climate science, wildlife studies, so much. But behind all that,
Research scientists, the ones asking the questions, pushing the boundaries.
that's what we're diving into today, isn't it? What
Yeah,
it actually takes to be one of them.
that's right. We've looked at a really helpful piece by Jared Kanize.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it lays things out nicely. So whether you're maybe thinking about this as a career,
Or working with researchers already.
or even if you're just, fascinated by how science actually happens, this deep dive should give you the essentials.
So our mission, if you will.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Understand the job, the steps to get there, and the skills you absolutely need.
Okay, let's kick things off. What does a research scientist do day to day? It's got to be more than just lab coats and test tubes, right?
Oh, definitely. I mean, yes, lab experiments and trials are a big part for many fields.
Like medicine, biology.
Sure, developing new treatments, things like that. But it's broader. Think political science, even computer science.
Environmental science, too, you mentioned.
Absolutely. Tackling really big societal questions or, say, developing greener tech.
So it's not always strictly in the lab.
Not always, no.
Hmm.
The lab's often key because you're planning experiments meticulously, running them,
Recording data.
recording and analyzing data, maybe supervising junior staff sometimes. But there's more.
Like what?
Well, communication is huge. Writing up research papers, detailed reports.
To share the findings, yeah.
Exactly. And in some fields, you're out collecting samples, doing field work.
Right.
And maybe the biggest thing, constantly staying updated. Science moves fast.
Yeah.
You have to keep learning.
Okay, that makes sense. It's a dynamic role. So for someone listening who's thinking, maybe this is for me, what's the path? How do you actually become one?
Right. The journey. Well, the article we looked at suggests a pretty clear sequence.
Okay.
First step, foundational. Get a bachelor's degree.
In a relevant field, I assume.
Absolutely. If you're leaning towards medical research, maybe clinical research, biochemistry, biology, pharmacology,
Or pre-med, even.
or pre-med, yeah, those
Right.
undergrad courses geared towards med school. Or if it's computer science, maybe IT is your starting point.
Got it. Build that foundation. What's next after the bachelor's?
Typically a master's degree, that usually takes about 2, maybe 3 years.
And that lets you specialize more.
Exactly, a deeper dive. Some places even offer combined bachelor's-master's programs,
Yeah.
which can streamline things.
Oh, interesting.
Otherwise, yeah, you'll probably need to take the GRE, the graduate record exam, for most master's applications.
And what's the coursework like at that level?
It often includes things like, well, teaching skills, believe it or not.
Really? Teaching?
Yeah, and research writing, obviously getting good at papers and grant proposals. Advanced math often comes into it,
Okay.
and even public speaking skills.
Public speaking. That's maybe not the stereotype of a scientist.
I know, but it's so important. You need to present your findings at conferences, defend your work, argue for funding.
Right. Makes sense when you put it that way. So bachelor's, master's. What about experience?
That's a really good point. The article suggests getting some hands-on experience is often valuable. Maybe work for a year or two before starting a PhD,
Or even earlier.
or even defer the master's, or work as a research assistant after your bachelor's. That practical, on-the-ground learning can be huge. It helps you figure out what you really enjoy.
Okay, practical experience. The article also mentions certifications. Are those essential?
They're not always required, but they could definitely give you an edge, especially in certain areas.
Like clinical research.
Exactly. The Association of Clinical Research Professionals, ACRP, they offer some well-respected ones, like Certified Clinical Research Associate or Principal Investigator.
ACRP certified professional was another.
That's it. But it's worth noting, like the source says, these groups aren't affiliated with job sites like Indeed or anything. They're independent professional bodies.
Good clarification. Okay, so bachelor's, master's experience, maybe certifications, and then the big one for many, the doctorate.
Precisely. If you want to lead your own research projects, run your own lab eventually. A PhD is often the standard requirement.
And that's a big commitment.
It is, usually about 4 to 5 years.
Oh, duh.
And the core of it is doing original research.
Something brand new.
Yep, something that adds to the field. And then you have to defend that research, your dissertation, in front of a committee of experts.
Wow. Okay. Definitely a significant step.
But often necessary for those top-tier independent research roles.
So let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about how to become one, but what about the job itself? What's the outlook like? Are there jobs out there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crucial. And the outlook, based on U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics data, is actually pretty positive overall.
Good to hear.
Though it does vary a bit by field. For medical research scientists, they projected about 11% growth.
Which is faster than average, right?
Considerably faster, yeah. Driven by things like, our aging population, new diseases popping up, always new questions to answer in health.
And what about other fields? Computer science, for instance.
Well, that one's projected to grow even faster, something like 26%.
26%? Wow. Why so high?
Just huge demand for better technology, stronger cybersecurity. It's a rapidly expanding area for research.
Definitely some strong numbers there. Okay, what about the work environment? Where do these scientists actually, well, work?
It's quite varied. A lot are in colleges and universities, obviously.
Such academia.
Right. But also private companies, research and development firms, pharma companies, tech companies, and nonprofits, too.
And what's the day-to-day setting like? Is it all lab work?
Often a mix. Time in the office for planning, analyzing data, writing.
Right, the communication part we talked about.
Exactly. And then time in the lab, conducting the experiments. Collaboration is usually key. Working with other scientists.
Using specialized equipment, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. Sometimes very complex stuff. And depending on the field, there might be safety considerations handling hazardous materials or pathogens, for example.
And the hours? Typical 9 to 5.
Generally full-time, yeah. But experiments don't always keep standard hours, so sometimes longer or more flexible schedules are needed to see things through.
Sounds like it demands a lot of dedication. Which brings us to skills. What does it really take skill-wise to succeed here?
The article highlighted several key ones. Communication is right up there.
Both speaking and writing.
Absolutely. Verbal skills to articulate what you're observing, discuss ideas with colleagues.
And written skills.
Crucial for those grant proposals, reports, and getting published in journals. That's how science moves forward.
Okay, communication. What else?
Data analysis. Being able to gather the information effectively, design good experiments, and then interpret the results accurately. That's core.
Making sense of the numbers, essentially.
With the observations, yeah. Reaching sound conclusions based on the evidence.
What other skills stand out?
Critical thinking is huge. Figuring out the best way to tackle a problem, the right questions to ask, the best methods to use.
Being analytical.
Very much so. And interpersonal skills, too. You're almost always working in a team.
So teamwork, listening, asking good questions.
All of that. And patience. Research takes time. Experiments can fail. You need perseverance.
I can imagine. Things don't always work the first time.
Rarely.
Yeah.
And finally, just a really strong attention to detail. You need accurate records, procedures others can repeat. Precision matters.
Wow, quite a list. Communication, data analysis, critical thinking, people skills, patience, and detail-oriented.
It's a demanding mix, for sure.
But it sounds like when it clicks, it must be incredibly rewarding.
Right.
Now, the question on many people's minds, the money. What's the salary situation generally look like?
Okay, so the data mentioned the source put the national average for clinical research scientists at around $87,881 per year.
$87,000. Okay, but that's an average, right?
Exactly. It's just an average. The actual range can be pretty wide.
What kind of range are we talking?
Well, the source suggested something like maybe $50,000 on the lower end, up to $150,000, or even more on the higher end.
That's a big difference. What causes that variation?
Several things. Experience level is a big one, obviously.
Makes sense.
The specific industry matters, too. Working in academia might pay differently than, say, a big private pharmaceutical company.
Right. Private sector versus public academic.
And location plays a role, too. Cost of living and demand in different cities or regions.
So lots of factors influence the actual paycheck.
Definitely. But it shows there's potential for a solid career financially for many in the field.
So wrapping things up, it really sounds like becoming a research scientist is, well, a dedicated path. It takes commitment.
It absolutely does. Years of study, developing a specific skill set.
But the potential payoff seems huge, not just financially, but in terms of impact.
Exactly. You get the chance to really explore the unknown, to contribute something new to our understanding.
To potentially make a real difference in the world.
That's the driving force for many, I think. That fundamental curiosity, that desire to figure things out, to solve problems.
It's quite inspiring, actually. And for listeners who might be feeling that spark, thinking about research jobs, particularly in universities or colleges in the U.S., we wanted to mention a resource, academicjobs.com.
Right.
It's a great place to just Browse academic scientist openings, see what's out there, what different roles look like across the country.
Good tip. A practical next step if this conversation has sparked some interest?
Definitely worth a look.